The Liberation of Sundrian City by Andrew Lewis. Chapter 22. Go into End. That night in the palace of Sundrian City, minds and feet wandered alike. Eventful was the night, to say the least. While Linus thumbed the pages of the small book that the princess had given him, his mind expanding at the sketches and descriptions of gadgets and potions, the likes of which he couldn't have imagined in his wildest dreams, the princess wandered the halls in the dead of night. She moved silently, cat-like, and with fury burning in her eyes. She felt calm in a strange way, as if the anger in her had manifested as a resolve to do this one terrible act. And so she moved onward, the silk of her robes trailing at her feet along the marble floor. Guards of the hall paid little attention to the princess passing toward her father's bedchamber, and while she tried not to attract attention, she didn't mind who saw her. It wouldn't matter soon enough. The guard at Emperor Frigg's door stepped wordlessly aside to allow the princess access, and she crossed into the room. It wasn't until the heavy wooden door clunked shut that the emperor began to stir from his sleep. "Who's there?" he asked groggily. Princess Robin moved forth, still in silence, and she saw her father's hand move to the nightstand and come to rest upon his thundersword. "It's me, father." His hand dropped and he sighed in relief. "Robin, you scared me half to death." "What in heavens are you doing?" "You've woken me up, young lady." "Sorry, father," she replied, as she came to sit on his bed, beside him. She reached for the thundersword, and as she took it in her hand, she felt her father go rigid behind her. "Why do you flinch, father? You know I cannot use this. My hands have not been enchanted by Ramil. Only 2 men in the city can use a thundersword. Do I need to remind you that you are one and the other is Ramil?" Frigg slouched a little, and when he spoke, it was with a relaxed tone that the princess knew was feigned. "Yes, quite right. Still, all the same, I would prefer you didn't handle the thundersword." She turned the sword toward her father casually. "I learned something today." Her voice was calm, kind even, and this was not normal for the princess. "I asked you to put the thundersword down, my dear." She clicked the metallic latch of the thundersword and again felt her father stiffen where he lay. "Sweetheart, I learned the truth today, father." And as she spoke, she moved the tip of the thundersword to her father's heart. "I learned about your wine and your potions and your poppies and more." The emperor's hand moved to clutch the thundersword, but as it did, the princess dug it deeper into his chest. "No," she hissed. All kindness was gone now, scorn in its stead. "I learned about the trades. I learned about the Asias and the Italies and the rest of the world outside our walls." "My dear, I learned everything, father. I learned the real purpose of these walls. I learned—" "Guard!" he bellowed, and in an instant the doors flew open. "Stay back," she spat, not turning her attention to the man at the door. The guard's shadow loomed over the room, timorous, confused. "I will pull this trigger, father, if he moves a step closer." The light spilling into the room from the hall was enough to illuminate the fear in the emperor's eyes. But your hands, they cannot—" He choked on his words, feeling the thundersword dig still deeper into his chest. He breathed deeply before he spoke again, a sorrowful exhalation. "What would you have me do, my dear? What do you expect to come of this? You murder your father for his crimes, then what? You are sent to die too? Please, my sweet princess, I beg of you, put away the thundersword, come with me to the sunroom, and I will summon Remy, and the 2 of us will explain it all to you, this whole mess. I always swore that one day I would tell you the truth, but you just never seemed ready to learn." "I know the truth already, father. I know you are a coward, bred of a long lineage of cowards. I know you are vile and selfish and evil, as was your father and his. She leaned in. I know the truth. My dear, my love, please, let's be reasonable. You will die for the crime of murder, and my sweet, I wish you no harm. You are a frig. We run from death, not move to it. You and I will both die if you pull that trigger. She sucked the air through her nose and deep into her lungs and lifted her chin. I am not afraid to die, she said, without a hint of fear in her voice. Perhaps a trait inherited from my mother, whoever the whore was. Perhaps I broke the lineage, but I tell you, Father, it's a nice feeling, liberating. Stop, she added, noticing the shadow of the guard moving closer. What would you have me do, my dear? He begged, a new defeat in his voice. What good will it do for both of us to die? You will have deserved it. Yes, you are right, but my love, let's work this out. You cannot die, you are too young, too dear. And in this, he seemed to come to a realization and sunk within himself. You are right, I deserve to die. I am vile and evil, and if you kill me, I will understand it. But you shall not die for my crimes. Guard, this is a command from your emperor. You are to report my death as a suicide and allow my daughter to pass. You will attest to her innocence until your dying day. Is that clear? Sir, I don't. It's a command, not a request. Yes, sir, I understand. Your will, sir. The shadow still remained, cast to the walls. My dear, as heir to the throne, it will remain to you to undo my doings. I am sorry to leave this burden unto you. When you are ready, you pull that trigger, okay? Sorrow settled among them, and she swallowed hard. I love you, my daughter. His eyes were fixed to hers. Her grip tightened on the thunder sword, and she felt tears of frustration welling. She surprised herself when a sob of heartache escaped her. She closed her eyes, feeling her father's chest rise and fall through the instrument in her hand. And as a tear leaked out, she tossed the thunder sword to the ground and stood. I detest you, Father. The expression of relief was excessive. A huge sigh heaved from Emperor Frigg, laced with a laugh, a grin spreading across his face. Princess Robin turned and made to leave the room. You are a horrible man, Father. I only hope... Seize her. Linus flicked from page to page, his eyes and mind widening as he progressed. He learnt of fire powder and its explosive properties. He learned of refined poppy powder and its application to induce euphoria. There was a diagram of the thunder sword, although it came under the title firearm rifle, which detailed the mechanical inner workings of the device. There was no mention of any magical properties. Page by page, Linus came to know the truth about his city, and more importantly, about the world outside his city.